Hello, I am Kiatrik. I am a trainer for making games with Construct 2. I am a moderator on Skara.com forums. I'm an indie game maker and game designer enthusiast. I'm making this video tutorial today for Envato gamedev Tuts Plus. So let's make a bit of modification to what we already have. We will have to limit the bullets the same way we've limited the player, because I don't want that if I'm at this point that here is the limit of my project. I don't want to be able to shoot a bullet that will hit an enemy that is like up there if the bullet goes too far away. So let's limit it in the same way. We'll be using about the same code. So change the bullet compare X, scroll X. Here it should be okay. We will simply destroy the bullets, and about the same here. Bullets, next. So here it is, we have limit our movements and limit our bullets movements in the layout. Here it is. And now we will have to add enemies to our current project. Make sure you're in the layer action and make a new sprite. There we will have to make several animations. So enemy 0, and I will import sprite strip enemy. You shifted 6. So here it is, number of vertical 6. Okay, here it is. It's working fine. So the image point is the same. It's at the same level in all the animation. We will want it to loop, and we will have to make sure the collision polygon, it's a rectangle, it should be fine. So now let's add another animation, enemy 1, and enemy 1 we import sprite strip again, take the next one, 6, make sure it loops, and finally add another animation, enemy 2, import again, 6 vertical cells, here it is, it loops, yes, let's preview it quickly, yeah, it moves on itself, it's nice. So yeah, here are my enemy, here is my enemy. I will want to add an instance variable which I will name type, and depending on the type of the enemy I will initiate it in several ways, allow certain behaviors to kick in, and also display a specific animation. I want in the behaviors, I want first a bullet, obviously, to make some movement. I want to destroy outside of layout. I will also want some sign, as well as another one. No. My bad. As well as another one. Sign, it's okay. So now let's configure everything. So the speed of the bullet 400, it's okay. I don't want to set the angle. The sign, it won't be activated at start. I want to be able to activate it when I feel like it. So first vertical in sign for 50, I will keep it that way, and the horizontal sign for, and I will put it at 25. Here it is. And those enemies will also be able to shoot bullets. So to add bullets, we will make a new sprite object. We will go into the JFX file, open bullet enemy 3 and import a new frame bullet enemy 4 and make sure the speed is to 0, and rename the object bullet enemy. And now finally we will need a last element which we will do ourselves directly into the image editor. I will resize to 16 by 16, paint, select a color, whatever, one that is not used, and here it is. And this will be spawn enemy, and also the initial visibility will be to invisible. The spawn enemy object will actually be an object we will set into the layout, and that will spawn waves of enemies as the scrolling will come upon this object. So to do this, let's add some instance variables first to our enemy spawn. We will want to add a number of enemy, which is the number of actual enemy sprites, enemy instances that will be spawned. Type enemy, which will be what type of enemy will be spawned from this object. The spacing, which we will use to set the space between each enemy being spawned. Angle aim, which will be the angle at which the enemies will shoot bullets. The fire rate of the enemy, pretty much like the fire rate of our own player. And finally, HP, which is the current health point for our enemy. So with this object, it means that tweaking and setting different values, I will be able to spawn different patterns and different enemies and different waves at a time, which will allow for a bit more diversity in less code. For the enemy, I will need to add some variables too. So let's go. It will be the at HP, the fire rate, the cooldown, once again very much like what we did with our player, as well as angle aim. Alright. Okay, so let's now dig into the code. Add new event, and it will be a system for each and spawn enemy. And I will also add another condition because I want both conditions to be true and to happen, I will check for the X position of the enemy spawn, make sure that it is less or equal scroll X plus window width divided by 2, and also I will add a little 32. So to be sure that the actions I will set right there will only apply when the enemy spawn is about here, actually. You know, it doesn't really matter where the player will be, because it's the scrolling that is taken into account, and as soon as it will be close to this point, then we will spawn stuff. We'll spawn the enemies. So let's add a sub-event and make it a repeat loop, which is pretty interesting, and which will be equal to number enemy. From there, I will want to create an object enemy in the layer action, and the X position will be spawn enemy.x and spawn enemy.y. For this enemy, I will set the bullet speed to 42. I will set the enemy bullet angle of motion to 180, so it's going left. Enemy, I will set the animation to enemy, and I will add there the value of spawn enemy dot type enemy, and I will play it from the beginning. It's okay. Then enemy set value type to spawn enemy type enemy. So this way the enemy will keep this value, and so for any time I will need to check, I will know what is the type of my enemy. The HP will be equal to spawn enemy HP. The enemy fire rate will be equal to spawn enemy fire rate. I'm just passing down the values right there. Enemy angle aim will be equal to spawn enemy angle aim, and I will add there a little trick. Actually, I will want to move forward my enemy by loop index multiplied by enemy dot width plus spawn enemy dot spacing pixels. So loop index is actually the current index of my repeat loop. So it begins at 0 and will go up to NB enemy. So 0, 1, 2, etc., etc. And it's kind of a variable there, a system variable. And I will multiply this variable by the width of the enemy plus the spacing of the spawn enemy. And this way I will be able to have aligned enemies that will go on the right of the screen. I won't see them before they get on the screen, But this way it will allow me to give the impression that there is a wave just coming through. And in the same order of ID, enemy set value cooldown to loop index divided by 5. This will allow me to have enemies that will not have all the same cooldown and that will not all shoot at the same time, because this will be variable and the cooldown will be different from every enemy. And then I come back to my event 21 and add a blank sub-event, or I could press the B button, B keyboard key, to add a blank sub-event. It is blank, it means that it will be executed every tick, because the event in event sheets are executed when the conditions are true. All of the conditions are true. So if there is a blank event, it means that it will be executed no matter what. And there actually I just want to destroy my spawn enemy, because I don't want to be able to spawn new waves of enemy anytime. So let's try there. I will make 3 enemies of type 0 in a spacing of 64. Angle aim, I will put 180, so if they shoot, they will shoot on right on the left. Fire rate, I will put let's say 125. Doesn't really matter. It's just to test right now. And so as you can see, 1 enemy, 2 enemy, 3 enemies. But for now, as you can see too, there is no interaction between enemies, bullets and stuff. I'm just able to spawn the enemy. Let's try just to modify the type of enemy. Put the type 2. Oh, blue ones. So our code for the animation is working, and the type of the enemy will display a different animation. Now we want to have more control over the enemies. And so right there we will add another sub-event and check for the enemy type. If the type is equal to 1, I will there set active. It's set to active right there, and the sine wave will be triangle. And for an enemy type 2, I will want the first sign to be active and let it as it is, and actually activate the sign 2 also. So actually this is stuff that I am myself deciding, and you will be able to tweak by yourself. Depending on the type of the enemy, we will set some of the behaviors active or not, and modify certain of its properties. In that case, the wave function, triangle instead of sine, you can just go and tweak and have a try and modify it and modify the values, etc. It just allowing you to make several types of enemies and several patterns, etc. You can pretty much have as much type as you want. We have set only 2 animations, but just let's pretend that I'm setting a type 5. You will then just right there modify it and say yes, I want in fact the enemy 0 animation to be there. I don't want this sign to be active, but I want the sign to be, and I want the sign to have a period of, let's say, 2 seconds. And so right now, if I'm putting there an enemy type 5, I will have a different behavior. You see, They will slow down and move left, slow down, accelerate left, and set here an type enemy of 2. As you can see, it's moving differently and it has a different animation, etc, etc. And so we will want also to handle the cooldown in the same way we have done it to shoot some bullets and stuff. So like we did for the player cooldown superior or equal, greater or equal to 0, we'll want the enemy add to cooldown value dt. And then another one, enemy compare instance variable cooldown is greater or equal to self dot fire rates. Enemy sets value cooldown to -1. Actually no, I will set it to 0, add a sub event, not a blank one, it's not a big deal, add another condition. Enemy, the type, and I will check that type is not equal to 0, because I want my type 0 to be only straight enemies that won't shoot. Just straight kamikaze-like of enemies. And when it's type 0, I want to create object bullet enemy in the layer action at enemy.x and enemy.y. This is good. I will then set the bullet enemy speed to... Oh, I forgot to put a bullet. I guess I did. Okay, so in behaviors, you will want, obviously, a bullet behavior for your bullets. And so now bullet enemy, set speed to 125, and bullet enemy set angle of motion to, and there it is, enemy angle aim. Here it is, angle aim. So even enemies that look alike can have different aim and different type of shooting. So I guess this should do it. I will just modify it so that we have more shoots. Let's try it. Okay, so now you can see it is shooting. Okay, so as you have seen, if the value is of the fire rate is too low, according to the cooldown, the last enemy may not shoot. So it's just a matter of tweaking with the values to see what feels the best, actually. And so now we will have to handle some more stuff, like the bullet collisions and the position of the enemy and stuff like that. Let's continue in our next video.